All right, hey there. What's your name?
I'm Jim Fricker. I co-host the podcast Learn Spanish and Go with my wife, Mai.
Okay, that sounds like a cool topic. Are you from Florida here, Orlando?
No, I'm from the Midwest, Minnesota.
All right, well, you came down for the weather?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I came from Costa Rica. We're spending a month there, and we're on a mission to visit every Spanish-speaking country and share the culture and the traditions and the differences in language from all of the Spanish-speaking countries. So,
Okay, and where in Costa Rica were you?
we're in San Jose right now, but we'll be out exploring other parts soon, hopefully.
Nice. I was in Santa Teresa last year, and then my oldest daughter was born in Playa Chiquita on the Caribbean side about 23 years ago.
Really? Wow. Cool. Is she a dual citizen then?
I mean, she can be. We never got her, like, what they call the schedula or whatever. It's like Social Security, but my Spanish is no bueno anymore. It was good when I lived there because I was kind of forced into learning Spanish.
Yeah.
Because she was born there. I had to get all of her birth certificate and all the stuff to eventually leave the country. So that was good. That's a good way to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
Have a baby in a Spanish-speaking country and then do all the paperwork for them, and you'll be a fluent Spanish speaker by the end of that.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me about your podcast. How long have you been doing it for?
Well, we started during the pandemic, 2020. It's actually, we recorded 11 episodes back in 2011. Never published
Oh, wow.
them for some reason. But then we went into YouTube, started that, and that's really how we kicked off the business on YouTube. Added the podcast, and we also host Spanish immersion retreats in Mexico. So those are kind of the three components of our business: YouTube, podcasting, and the retreats.
And have you been using your podcast to help monetize your Spanish-speaking immersion program?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We've gotten a number of people joining us just from the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so, in terms of growing your podcast, what's that look like for you? Like, have you seen a lot of growth? Are you kind of seeing month over month kind of a, very consistent type of growth?
Yeah, so we have YouTube and podcasting are two different animals, right? Like with YouTube, you've got the algorithm on your side. If you produce a good video, they'll push that out to millions of people. If you have the best podcast episode, it doesn't really work like that, right? Podcast episodes don't go viral in the same way that YouTube videos do. So we've seen steady growth, and we're able to convert a portion of our YouTube audience over into our podcast audience when we're just starting out. But other than that, being on other people's podcasts has definitely helped grow the show, and we'll do kind of exchanges like that. Sometimes just inviting people on from other podcasts, or we'll be on their show. It's been a fantastic way to grow.
Yeah, those are super important techniques for growth, and I'm glad you touched on them. Those are really easy wins and things a lot of people can do to just get that exposure out there, and I do it too. I really enjoy going and being a guest on other podcasts, just kind of telling my story. You don't have to like plan out the episode. It's like you just get to go and have fun and answer questions, and they're always a fun conversation. So in terms of your journey so far, what's been maybe some of the lows and some of the highs that you've experienced?
Yeah, I don't feel like we've had too many lows. We've just come to accept with the podcast that it's not going to grow the same way our videos did on YouTube. But yeah, we just see it as one of the components of our business, and so as long as we stay consistent, we're sure that over time, there might be fewer downloads some days than others, but over time things are going to grow up and to the right, and so we don't try to focus too much on, like, oh, today we didn't have as many downloads as yesterday. We know there are ebbs and flows. There's a certain seasonality for whatever reason, maybe across the industry, but we've noticed that in December, people listen a lot more than they do in other months. So it's been a lot of fun. We're just keeping at it, and to us, it's more about building a community of people who are actually interested in our mission and visiting different Spanish-speaking countries and being able to share that enjoyment of travel and learning.
Yeah, I would be super interested in that. I love travel. I love, kind of one of my favorite things, and I've spoken about this before on, like, I used to be a wedding photographer, and on my wedding photography website, I mentioned how one of my favorite things is going into a new city where you have no idea of the language and having to figure it out, having to figure out the bus system, having to figure out how to get on the trains. It really puts you out of your comfort zone, but the personal growth in those moments is so exhilarating.
Absolutely, yeah. They're humbling experiences, and I think that's why so many people quit. For whatever reason, when we become adults, we lose this ability to just kind of shrug off things. We have more of an ego about ourselves, and I think that's pretty much across the board. But the more you can accept the fact that you're going to make an idiot of yourself many times over, but in the process you're going to learn not only a new language, but also you're going to grow emotionally by being able to accept, hey, I don't know everything, I'm out here to learn, and I mean, it's an incredibly...
And I mean, it's very eye-opening for me, even when I started traveling internationally. The first time I went to Europe, I was 38 years old, so I hadn't even, whereas I, spent a lot of time in Costa Rica and, living in San Diego, like kind of, like Mexico and stuff like that. When you travel international and you see how other people live and what's important to them, and it's really eye-opening. It gets you out of this mindset that we have living in the U.S. that, things are a certain way and everybody must kind of like think the same way that we do, because they don't. Like, people totally think differently, and it's really beautiful to be able to go into other cultures and see how they're living and what we might learn to just take back home with us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say if there's an antidote to bigotry, it's travel. And being able to put yourself in situations where you're at the mercy of the locals, you'll see the world in a whole different way. And I think, it's going to help. It would help people for the better to get out and experience it and have those humbling experiences at least once in their lifetimes, to realize, hey, not everything is how we do it in the U.S., right? And people get by and people are happy. And there's more than one way to live your life.
Well, I know you probably want to see more in the show here, so we'll ask you one last question about this assertion that you have to be rich to make it in podcasting. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of questions about that. What does it mean to be rich? I feel like I'm living a rich life even though I'm not a millionaire, right? So, being able to get out and travel and I mean, the cost of a computer these days is relatively low. You can get a microphone and broadcast it to the world for a few bucks a month. I don't feel like you have to be rich to podcast. To make it in podcasting, I think you just have to have a message that resonates with people and to provide information that helps people, right? Yeah. And so if you can do that, then absolutely you don't have to be rich to make it in podcasting in terms of money. I see you do have the dollar signs on there too, so that kind of clarifies the rich definition maybe a little bit. But no, I don't think you have to be.
That's a beautiful answer, and I love that. So anyway, thank you for stopping by. Once again, the name of your podcast and your name?
I'm Jim from Learn Spanish and Go. I'm the co-host with my wife, Mai, who's from Mexico.
All right, go check that out, guys.